Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to our webinar today. This webinar is actually the first in a three-part series that has to deal with sales and marketing for home care. And because this is the first month of the year, brand new year, 2015, we thought we would sort of go back to the basics because in our work with lots of different agencies across the country, we oftentimes are talking about sales and marketing, and there is some confusion about it, what they are, how they work together. So I really appreciate your attendance today. We hope we'll make this next hour with you a very meaningful hour. And I have a few housekeeping things I'd like to say first. One is I have everyone on mute mode, which means that we can't hear you and the background noise that you would are probably experiencing in your office. But if you have questions, we would absolutely love to entertain those questions, and there should be a text box on the right-hand side of your screen, and all you have to do is type in your questions there. And we will try to get to those. If we don't get to them at the end of the webinar, then we'll definitely answer those questions by email. We did, however, look at all your questions that you put in ahead of time, and thank you so much for taking the time to do that. My name is Marilee Orsini, and I work with CoreCubed, actually a company I founded and continue to work with, but my roots are in home care. I started a geriatric care-managed, non-medical, long-term in-home care business in 1981 and ran that business for 17 years and then sold it, and then worked with the company that bought my company for a couple of years in mergers and acquisitions of other firms, and then in 1998 started CoreCubed. And one of my passions is trying to help home care agencies and actually aging care businesses and vendors that service the industry, help them be successful in their marketing efforts. And I am joined in this endeavor by some amazing folks, and two of them are on our webinar today. One is Marissa Snook. She's a managing director for CoreCubed, but she also runs our MOST program. If you do not know about the MOST program, I encourage you to find out about it. We do have a webinar about MOST coming up later this month, and you can go online to MOST for your marketing and read all about that. But we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk more about sales and marketing. But Marissa has really been working directly with home care agencies since 2005, and she really manages the MOST program, serves as our in-house concierge for the MOST program, and deals with issues affecting marketing and sales for home care agencies on a regular basis. We're also joined today by Amy Selly. She's also managing director. They are both actually co-managing directors, and it is a wonderful thing for me to have such capable folks here. Amy has an amazing capacity for understanding marketing and branding and messaging, and I'm so thrilled that she has joined us. She's got a long history in aging care, and she brings such a positive sense to our company, and also brings a lot of energy and ideas. So I think you will enjoy hearing from both of these women today. And what we are going to talk about today is really the sales and marketing for home care. There's a lot of questions about what is sales and what is marketing, and how does one best achieve results in home care. So that is what we're going to talk about today. Again, really more of the basics. I know some of you had very specific questions, and we'll touch on some of those, but we do have two more webinars in this series, one on branding and reputation building, and one on specifically dealing with referral sources. So I hope you'll join us for those two. We do record these webinars, and on our CoreCubed website we have an events page, and we house those recorded webinars on that events page. So anyone who would like to share the link to someone that can't be on the webinar or wants to sit through this webinar again, then please go to our CoreCubed website. We do not send out the PowerPoints, but we do record these and have them available for you. So again, thank you for joining us today. And are you ladies ready to start our webinar?
We are.
We sure are.
All right. You know, the question we get a lot of the time is when we talk about marketing home care, people think we're talking about sales. And what we want to talk about today is what is sales and what is marketing, and how do they work together, and how can you as a home care agency owner or a home care agency marketing person or salesperson, how can you do your job better? So sales is the one we have the biggest question about. And here's some definitions for sales, but what we are really saying is that the sales component is really that transactional component where you are actually asking for the sale or building a relationship that results in a sale. Marissa or Amy, do you have anything you want to talk about sales before we move on to a definition or some definitions of marketing?
Yeah, I would just like to jump. This is Amy, and I would just like to say I think it's great that we're going back to the basics today, and to reiterate what Marilee was saying, sales is really your feet on the ground, your people who are out there building a relationship. And we're going to talk about what marketing is next and how that helps them build the relationship, not just with the consumers, but with the referral sources who send business your way.
And I would also like to mention something Erin Markham said recently at a workshop actually Amy and I both attended at Home Care Association of America about would you rather fish in a pond or would you rather fish in the ocean? Now, I actually would rather fish in the ocean than a pond, but the point was that you're going to have more success if you're targeted and focused in your outcome than if you have a whole ocean to fish in. So,
and what I hope for this webinar today is there's so, as Marilee mentioned earlier, there's so much confusion between what is sales and what is marketing. And they work together so well. I can understand why people kind of confuse them, but it is so important to have both of them. And having that clarity is going to really help you have the focused effort and have the best results.
Thank you, Marissa. And a lot of our questions had to do with how do I get more sales? How do I do my marketing better? How do I contact referral sources? And, what should my strategy be? So we're going to talk about all of those things, but not in truly specific, except we will give some examples about things. But I think the main thing about marketing is that it isn't just one thing. It really is much broader, and it really is lots of different activities, but it runs through the entire business, and it is something that involves a lot of different components, and I have a list of those in a minute, but I was thinking last night about how the home care agency works and the processes within the agency and how there are really separate functions, but they all do come together, but they could be lumped into operations, which is really all of your financial, how you fund things and how you set your rates, and all of your HR component, how you do your recruiting and retention, and then that whole operations component is one, and then you have a whole nother component which is your clients and their disease states or frailty and how you service them and your level and depth of understanding about their needs and the needs they have as they age in place or recuperate or whichever model you're providing. And then encompassing all of that is really marketing. Because it's so much more than just selling. It's really who you are and how you tell your story to the public and how you present yourself to referral sources and what someone perceives and thinks and feels about when they interact with you or any of your caregivers. So marketing is really a much, much broader, all-encompassing component of running an agency than sales, which is really asking for the sale or building that relationship.
Yeah, I think if we go back to sales being the process of building a relationship, the way that marketing interacts is that it's the strategy behind who you should develop a relationship with and the content, the conversation points that you should use to develop that relationship. That's where marketing brings its value to the sales process.
And several questions about strategy, and strategy is one component. And as Amy just said, determining who are you going to sell to, and there's lots of different strategies in home care. So it's not just who you're going to sell to, but it's what you're going to sell and how you're going to sell that. But you know, we have clients who want to be more profitable, and so we look at what they're currently doing, and there's lots of different strategies. If you can have a strategy where you're really looking for longer term, longer hours, more intensive services to people, and there's a strategy that you can follow to do that. There's one franchise whose entire strategy is working with assisted living facilities to supplement the care that people have in that facility so they can stay in the facility longer. Lots of people target discharge planners, so their strategy is to try to get as many people coming out of the hospital as possible and perhaps work with Medicare certified agencies to provide the care that's not covered or reimbursed by anything else. So there's different kinds of strategies, and how you strategize that you're going to go to market is just one component of the marketing, but that also drives the sales. I think the interactive engagement component is probably the most important new marketing tactic. Not that engagement, being interactive, wasn't always important in sales, but it's moved into, with technology, the interactive nature of social media and of the internet and of reviews is really surpassing in importance many other marketing tactics, and also helps in sales.
Right. I think so interactive engagement as it's related to marketing has always been about getting past this is who I am and this is what I do. You really want to be telling people more than that and digging deeper. Interactive engagement is about engaging people where they are, looking at what their worldview is right now. And we know in aging care that much of our audience is adult children, and there are a range of needs that they have when they're searching for care. Those needs might be things like education, information, assessment of their current situation. It could be that they need empathy, or that they need a little bit of humor as they go through the process. And there's ways to create content that is engaging people around the needs that they have at the time that they start to notice differences in their parents or their elderly loved ones, and they start to seek out that education and information and empathy. And you're able to put those things out in a variety of ways.
And some of those we have segmented in this other, the other bullet points here, and those would be content and social media. But let me touch on public relations for just a minute, because public relations is really reaching out to the media, and as technology changes and the interactive engagement component of marketing becomes more important and wider, public relations interfaces with that, because what you really are doing when you are using public relations is taking content that is answering people's questions or showcasing something that's happened positively in your agency. But public relations now is not just going to newspapers, but it can be an online presence, and that online presence can actually be something that people will share. If it's an article that's that answers someone's question or solves a problem, people will share those articles, and they have a lifetime now. It's not just, you know, a printed publication that you might have, although you could cut out an article, but that has life. Marissa, we have a client who actually has gotten referrals from a very old article they wrote. Now it's been 4 years or something that...
It's been many years, and they still get calls when they ask the question, how did you hear about us? They say, oh, well, we saw an article in XYZ publication, which is amazing to them because of how old that article is. But, you know, when you get third-party endorsements like that, which is what a press release is seen as when it's posted in a publication like that, it really does have longevity.
And public relations is just one component of the subspecialty, and can be a component of strategy, and if understood, it really works very well with the interactive engagement component and also with SEO. So it's all of these specialties within marketing, because of technology, and the changes in technology are more interrelated now. We'll talk about inbound marketing a little later on, but that's really what all this is. And the content component of this is something that you hear the words content marketing, but Marissa, you have a great way of talking about how to make content important and what's the difference in content versus content that's relevant.
Well, I think, you know, with content being the buzzword over the last year and continuing to be a buzzword, people are just putting out content and not really thinking about, how is this going to relate to my audience? Is it going to answer their questions? Is it going to be something that they're looking for? Is it easy for them to read? It's just gobbledygook. They're like, we're going to trick the search engines. Let's throw a bunch of keywords into this content, and it's going to make a difference for us. I think especially with home care, you really have to pay attention to good quality content that is going to keep people coming back for more, because that's the whole purpose, is to engage them and have them come to your agency when they have a care need.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the idea that in today's world, with all of the social media and online outlets for publishing, that good stories rise to the top and get shared. And that's what content is. It's a story about how to do something, a story about your organization. People can tell the difference between good content and bad content, and search engines can tell the difference as well. And so it's important to have content that's relevant, that makes sense, that helps people, and that tells a story.
And also that content is written for people, not just for search engines. We're not going to talk that much about SEO today, but SEO, having said that, I'm just getting ready to talk about it. So. SEO has, it's complicated, it's technical, it changes. It has really, really changed over time. I mean, we have been involved in search engine optimization organically and paid since 1998, so we have really seen search engine optimization cycle through, and what is, you really should be writing for people, and it should follow your strategy of who it is you're trying to attract to come to your website or to find you, but it really is very, very much related to content and relevant content. That's actually one of the words, relevant content, one of the phrases that is used for search engine optimization, because the content does have to be relevant to humans. Social media, I love. Amy, you said someone calls social media.
Yeah, one of our colleagues in the marketing industry recently made this comment, and I thought it was a great way to talk about what social media is today. It's the new word of mouth. It is the way people share information, and they do it every day. Social media is just not about getting friends and liking friends, but people are sharing information about products and services on social media. And so it's important to be there, and not just in places like Facebook and LinkedIn, but you better believe there's people on Pinterest who are creating boards for how to help an elderly person, how to arrange care for an older adult. So social media is just it's a great way of sharing information, and people, if you have the right content in social media, people will share that, and it spreads very easily. It's an inexpensive way to market.
And we have lots of stories about social media and how that does actually translate into engagement with the website and inquiries. But one of my favorites was one of our clients. We posted something on Google Plus, and within the hour that came up in a search result, and the client wanted to know, how did we done that? And it's the magic. The Core Cube's magic, but it really was a very poignant example of how effective using social media is, and how it works with SEO, and how it can help drive people to your website.
I hear a lot of clients who say, "Well, I don't get any business from social media," but you have to think about it as something that is part of the catalyst towards bringing them into your business. They may say, "We found you on the web," but that could be a combination of they looked at your website, they first came to your social media, and that drove them to the website. So you can see when measuring social media, if people are sharing and if people are liking it, and that is a good indicator that it is working as it should be.
Yeah, I think also if your current clients and your current caregivers are following you on social media, it's an easy way for them to share information about the company that gets spread easily and quickly.
And I'd like to throw in review sites, because I think that is more and more something people are looking at. And now when you travel, I'm certain you look at TripAdvisor or some place that will, find out, does this hotel really provide a good service, and is the location really good, or is it, under the L in Chicago? You have to listen to sound all night long. And the idea with the review sites, people are actually, if they're happy with your service, they're going to spread that word. So social media is continuing its growth, and continuing to be very important in that interactive engagement component. I'm going to throw in design here, because Amy, you said so well about we are more and more becoming a visual-oriented society. And to me, good design, and good design when you see it, and unfortunately that does mean that you have to hire someone who is a designer to do something professional, not your cousin or someone who lives up the street, or you who has access to clip art.
Yeah, I think in marketing, visual information has become more important. We are a society of scanners, and we like pictures that tell us a story. Because the amount of text accompanying graphics has gotten shorter, you have to make sure that your text is very powerfully packed with the right message. And sometimes you can incorporate your message into your visual. There's a lot more use of infographics and visuals that work harder to tell a story.
And just good design for branding purposes. People in this very highly competitive market are looking for quality, and design is one indicator of quality. I mean, you can, again, you know good design when you see it, and if the design component is considered with everything you do, including your engagement and your social media, your website, if you have a professional design component involved, it's going to generate more interest.
And I think when you think of design, think of it as a first impression, because we're human, we're going to make a snap judgment. Whether or not you think that you judge a book by its cover, I think everybody does to some extent. And as Marilee said, you know, quality is going to be one way that shows something about your services. So quality design, quality services, they're going to equate those two in their minds, subconsciously or not.
And in that buying process, in the very beginning of the buying process, whether someone is in an acute, emotionally laden situation where they have to make a quick decision, or whether someone has the luxury of having a longer time to explore resources, that design is going to catch their attention first. Subliminally perhaps, but definitely will catch their attention. I'm not going to talk a lot about SEO other than to say that search engine optimization is a living, breathing tool. It is something that works, and if done correctly, then, and it's an ongoing process, it's not a one-time process, because the algorithms change fairly regularly, and you really do have to be up to date on that. And SEO is one of those things I simply would not ever try to do in-house. I would always use a professional. And I'd also love to just right now talk about the paid pay-per-click, paid performance for website is so different from SEO, organic SEO. Pay-per-click, it works, it's expensive, but when you quit paying, it quits working. If you instead invest your money in SEO, which is organic, it's designing the website with keywords that people are searching for. It's looking at the website on a regular basis and finding out where is the traffic, and then making adjustments to the website so that you are trying to make certain that people are coming through your website in the pathways that you want them to come. And any money that's put into SEO, if it's done correctly, white hat SEO, then that is all incremental, and that money stays there and continues to have results later. If you quit pay-per-click, you lose all your results. If you stop SEO for a month or two, you don't lose any results. Those continue to grow for you. And then when you come back in and start doing SEO again, then you'll just continue to build on that base. So
I like to compare it to like a crash diet would be your pay-per-click. It's got some quick results, but they're not long-lasting, versus SEO, which would be more of a lifestyle change, you know, making a whole lifestyle change so that the benefits go on and on and on.
Yeah, what I would add just to finish up that point is that search engine optimization is about the quality and functionality of your website on a monthly basis. And there are so many things you can do to improve the quality, and search engine marketing, like Marissa said, is just a quick fix, and you lose all of the results as soon as you stop doing it, and it's an easy way to spend a lot of money.
And to get some fairly quick results, but then to not have those last long term.
Right.
We've just got a lot of definitions of marketing because we get so many questions about marketing. You know, in home care, if you hire a marketer, that is your salesperson. And so I think the sales component in home care somehow got a bad rap, and so nobody wanted to call a home care salesperson a salesperson. So that's the confusion within the industry. But the actual marketing, the concept of marketing is that it is the strategy by which you are going to attract your customers, the strategy by which you're going to determine who are your best customers and how are you going to get them. And then that whole sales process is really understanding within that strategy then what makes a qualified lead. And then once you've got that qualified lead, how are you going to follow up and through with those qualified leads? What information and what collateral material and what things are you going to give to people or share with people along that process? And then that culminates with transactions, a sales transaction, and then beyond that, continuing to build that relationship so that those transactions continue to grow.
Yeah, if I can jump in here, I think, again, sales is the process of developing a relationship and starting a conversation with a referral source or a consumer. And relationships and conversations don't happen when you say the same things over and over again. And by saying the same things over and over again, I mean bringing them the same brochure, reminding them who you are and what you do. There has to be more than that to develop a relationship and more than that to talk about, and that is where marketing comes in. It's that toolbox for your salespeople to be able to develop the relationships and have ongoing conversations that meet the needs of the people that they're talking to.
Yeah, the ongoing meaningful conversations and the meeting the needs of the people they're talking to is crucial, so that you're not delivering something to someone they don't want. I mean, one of the things I always counsel people about when they're responding to inquiries is don't send the huge marketing packet that's got 50 things in it because you think it shows what a fabulous agency you are. Instead, listen to what it is they're looking for and give them that. Answer that question and be very specific. You know, what was the inquiry about? Who was it about? How is that relationship with the person who inquired? And specifically, how can you solve their problem?
Actually, Marissa had a great analogy of this as well. I don't know if you want to share that one about dating. Yeah.
I was thinking that, I feel like the queen of analogies today, but I was thinking that it's a lot like a blind date, where you go on a blind date and you have the person who does nothing but talks about himself and how great they are in their business and their accomplishments and their past girlfriends, versus the date that says, you know, well, tell me about yourself and what do you like to do and what is your business? I mean, which one is more pleasant to be with? It's a no-brainer.
Good queen of analogies. So why does it matter, and why are we spending the time to go back to the basics here? And it matters because in order to have a successful business, you really do have to understand marketing. It is a core business function. You don't have to be good at it because of all the components that there are. Of course, we think you should outsource it to someone who does understand marketing and can bring a professional level to the marketing. But you do really have to understand it. And you have to, and marketing is more, you know, it's so much more. As like I say, we've got a branding and a reputation building workshop coming up next in February, and then in March we are doing specific to referral sources. But you really do need to realize it is a core business function, and it is not just developing a logo and creating a brochure and slapping a website up. It is so much more than that, because it really is. It needs to have, your agency needs to have an essence. You have to have a brand for your agency. You have to be differentiated. And all of those things then need to be encompassed in sort of an overlay of the business, because then the sales comes back in. And sales takes that marketing strategy and can actually then focus on the transaction and the relationship building, but it's only within the context of who you are, who is your target market, what is your message, and what is the design wrapped around that.
Right. What I would add to this is that marketing also is what motivates your salespeople.
Good.
Because it's a resource to them, and it gives them those tools to use to keep going back to consumers and referral sources with depth of information that meets their needs and allows your salespeople to have those meaningful conversations. Excuse me.
So let's talk a little bit about strategy. And we had a lot of questions about how do I set my strategy. And I will say that strategy really does depend on who you are, what you have as resources for yourself, for your market, for the competition that is there, and you really do need to set a strategy that will be profitable for you. And that really is based on what are you trying to sell, what services, and who are you trying to sell those to. Now that may sound very simple, but a whole lot of websites that I see are geared to selling directly to the senior who needs the care. Now, how many of you actually get calls from the senior that needs the care?
Because they really, really want it.
That's right. They're dying to have home care. So thinking about who you're trying to sell to, you know, I talked earlier about if you're thinking of if you want long-term hours, cases that have long-term hours, and that was one of our questions we got, wanted us to answer that question. Well, if you want to find people that are buying long-term hours, that means you need to have people who have enough income to have those long-term hours, and you need to be able to provide those services. So if you were trying to sell longer-term hours, then you would switch your focus from whatever you're currently doing and looking at those places where you can get longer-term hours, and that would be trust officers, estate and trust attorneys, guardianship programs, geriatric care managers, people who are working with people that have the financial means to pay for services and who are at the point in their life that they need some assistance to stay at home and have the means to do that. I recently did strategy with a client who was getting most of their business from hospice referrals, and they were concerned about the fact that they weren't as profitable as they would like to be. And I said, well, if you're spending your time and energy selling to hospices, then you're selling at the end of life. And all the statistics lately are people don't even go into hospice now. What's the average? 3 days before they die, something like that. So think of the time and energy it takes to staff those services, knowing going into it you've only got a 2 to 3 day window to provide those services. Take that same energy and focus that on understanding how to get into trust departments or trust and estate attorneys, and if you get a client from that referral source, it's much more likely to be longer term hours and longer term. So that's what I mean by strategy. We have a client that does a strategy every year and then follows that strategy for a year. Now, he measures in between to make certain he's going down the right path, but his feeling is that you really do need to set a strategy and follow it for longer term. And that's the other thing, is that you have to know your strategy's working, but you also have to continue to follow it to know that if you are able to make a change.
Yeah, I know so many clients that give up just a little too soon. You hear a lot of, well, I know our efforts have been scattered. And that is saying that there hasn't been a strategy that has been stuck to, because you can't measure something after just one postcard is sent out, or the website has just gone up, and this week I didn't get any calls in. It needs to be measured over time. It's not a flash in the pan.
Right. Just relationships are built over time, and messages need to be repetitive. You need to be contacting people often.
And aligning sales and marketing really goes back to strategy. And that goes back to the fishing in the pond or the ocean, because say you've decided that you really want to focus on getting longer-term clients with more hours. Then the sales team, obviously, or the salesperson, or whatever your sales component is in your agency, that salesperson needs to have tools to use that would attract that particular target, and they also need to have contacts, and there needs to be a lot of follow-up and relationship building and networking. So in aligning sales and marketing, it goes right back to your strategy, and marketing can help the salesperson and the sales team by giving them the tools and the information so their routine does not become boring or stale, and can also provide other ideas on ways. I mean, for instance, with estate and trust attorneys, one of the things that works is to partner with them to give a community presentation about aging in place. Not selling your agency, but how can someone remain at home? What are the tools that would allow someone to do that? What does it cost to do that? And how is that best accomplished? So and then the more relationship building you do within a referral source, the sales team has a better chance of selling, because that's what they're selling into. We're going to talk about inbound and outbound tactics a little later. Do either of you want to talk about inbound and outbound? Because I think that's crucial to strategy in terms of how do you best spend your dollars for marketing.
Well, I think that inbound is becoming increasingly more important, just because there's so many more avenues and new avenues for inbound marketing than there ever have been before, with all of the web and social media. People have more options to find the information that they're looking for. So they're not paying as much attention to the messages that are being shouted at them. Instead, they're closing their ears to that, and they're looking more for the answers that are, speak to them exactly where they are right now, because it's out there and they can find it.
Right, and it's indicative of how communication has changed. We don't wait for messages to be sent to us. We search for the information that we need. And if you don't have any information out there that people are searching for, then you won't be found.
This goes directly into, and those of you who have heard me present anytime, any place, have heard me talk about home care being an at-need service. And what I mean by that is that people don't really think about it until they have a need. Now, there can be an acute need when someone's being discharged from the hospital and all of a sudden you need home care, or it can be a longer term need where someone's visited a parent at a holiday and noticed that the parent's disheveled or unkempt, or that the house is in disrepair, or that the bills haven't been paid. So, but when that need arises, then the person who is trying to find a solution to care can't get enough information. So that's the crux of the strategy behind marketing home care differently, because you do then have to be where someone is looking. And what does that mean? It means they're first going to go, and that's where the business to business and business to consumer both intersect, is they go to either the web or social media. That's the first place. That's the convergent thing that happens for whatever kind of referral source or personal relationship that is now trying to help meet this need. They're going to go to the internet first or social media. And what they're going to look for is, how can I get relief from my problem? How can I alleviate my guilt of not being able to provide this myself? And so they're at a point where they're looking for solutions and looking for answers, and that is what the marketing of today for home care should be. Right. Providing answers.
Yeah, I think.
Not to put too much of a plug-in for most right now, but I can't help it since I run the program. But I mean, just because they're only going to pay attention to you when they have that need, it's so important to, if you can have that relationship with them before there's a need by answering questions that are out there as a more longer term. Maybe their client or their patient or their family member doesn't need care right now, but you can give them educational information about all sorts of different things that are related to elder care that develops that relationship with them prior to them even needing the care. So then suddenly when that care need is immediate, they feel that they trust you already because you are that resource for them.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I think that it's an ongoing series of needs that happen, and so some of the needs are very little. What vaccinations should a senior get in the fall, up to needs that are very great. How do I assess whether or not an older adult needs care right now? And so there's this great spectrum of needs that people go through as they identify and start to see increasing needs in the person that they're going to eventually be looking to help by finding a home care service. And one of the things that we hear a lot is that when our clients have worked with a marketing firm that doesn't specialize in aging care, is that they end up learning from the home care agency what some of those needs are. The benefit of working with someone who is an expert in aging care marketing, and we've all in our past lives worked for successful aging care businesses, is that we understand the process that people go through and how to create information and messages that meet those needs so that people have a relationship with you and keep coming back for more information and think of you when it's time to make the move to actually hiring care.
Well, and it's becoming more of an advisor as opposed to just selling something, and that goes into how it is sold differently. When you're selling services, home care services, you're selling into what that person's need is specifically. So if that person has a dementia, that's going to be a different solution than if the person has a broken leg or a broken hip or COPD. So it really is listening and assessing and meeting that need right there as opposed to having a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah, talking with someone rather than at them.
Yes, talking with rather than at. That's good. All of this really has to do with a strategic inbound marketing program. In some markets, conventional advertising and some traditional marketing programs are still very important, but most important is your website and a strategic inbound marketing program that works with the website. And the idea behind inbound marketing is it's a whole range of things that answer the questions that someone has when they have a care need. And that so when they find you, which is what they're going to do because they have the need and they're going to be searching, then this information that solves their care needs or answers their needs or points them in the right direction or keeps them coming back for more, that's the idea of inbound marketing, that it really is you're positioning your agency to be an expert in care, to be an advisor for what people need to do to solve their home care problems, and also to be out there in as many different places so when someone's looking for that care, looking for that information, that they're going to find your agency. I love this quote by Seth Godin. and this is sort of, I love marketing aligned with sales is smarketing. Selling to people who actually want to hear from you is more effective than interrupting strangers who don't. And that is the crux of inbound marketing and marketing aligning with sales. The main focal point in marketing is identifying the customer needs, and then the main focal point in sales is meeting those customers' needs.
Right, and Seth Godin talks about that a lot. We're a big fan of his books. Customer needs in his writing could also be associated with what their worldview is. What are they experiencing right now? You know, what frame are they looking through, and how can you get in that worldview and that frame to answer questions, inform, entertain, console, so that they look at you as someone who understands and is an advisor and an expert who can help them. If you give them that kind of care through the information that you provide, then they are likely to return when they're ready to buy.
I am a big fan, too, of saying that everyone in the organization should have some idea of what the marketing and sales strategy and collateral and events are. And I really think it should start with orientation. When you have caregiver orientation, they should see your brochures. They should understand what sponsorships you are having with disease associations or other, aging-related organizations in your community, with what events you're involved in or doing, and because you never know when anyone from a caregiver to the receptionist might have the opportunity to help someone through a process, or through a question or a crisis or an issue, and use your marketing tools to be able to do that. So it really should be aligned with every single person in the organization, and they should be clearly aware of what your messages are, what your elevator speech is. They should be very aware of how you brand your agency, and that adherence to quality, whether it's sending out a form into the client's home or whether it is giving a brochure to a referral source. So it really is everyone's duty in the organization. Now, how are you going to measure for success? This is one of the areas we find home care agencies are not very good at, but I've given you some bullet points here, and I think if you, there's all kinds of dashboards you can do that will help you measure if you are having success, but to look at your revenue growth, not only as a growth in revenue, but with a focus on profitability. So is your strategy better to do, as I said, to focus on those shorter term, more volume cases, or should your strategy be to look for the longer term, higher hour cases? And that's going to fit with what your caregiver pool is like and what your operations are like. So everything has to be aligned for that. But if you measure, make that one of your goals is to grow your profitability, not necessarily just your revenue, you'll take a different look at what you're offering. Referral sources, obviously, other than client referrals, the very best thing you can do is have wonderful referral sources, because that's a continuing source of admissions for you, source of new clients. So are you actually getting new referral sources? And in addition to that, are your numbers of referrals growing from each source? Now, this will feed back to your sales force, because you've got a marketing qualified lead. That means somebody that fits your strategy, but then a sales qualified lead is going to be somebody who actually is responsive to the salesperson. So you're going to, if you are measuring and making certain that you're doing this right, then you will have some success. You obviously want new customers and new clients, And you might want to have one of those two strategies, either focus on extending their length of service with you or focusing on volume services. And those are two totally different strategies. They're not mutually exclusive, but two totally different strategies. We really think that the successful strategy for marketing home care will position your agency as an advisor, position your agency really as a go-to expert, and solve problems for those people who are seeking solutions to care. And then your successful salesperson, and this is how marketing and sales align, that successful salesperson, instead of just taking brochures, is going to listen to what that referral source or the person they've targeted needs and wants, and will provide resources to help educate either them or their clients, listen very closely to what that customer needs, and then try to meet those needs with marketing collateral or other resources or links or articles or whatever kind of information is going to help them do their job better or find a solution to their problem. I think we have some questions. I have not been looking at the questions because we've been talking, but let me go in here. Oh goodness, this is what are the regulations around paying for private duty referrals? I don't think there are any regulations around paying for private duty referrals. You can pay a bonus or commission in private duty because it's not reimbursed by the government to anyone you want to. We've seen bonuses given to caregivers for bringing in clients. I've not actually seen bonuses given to professionals except in the home placement industry, nursing home industry, assisted living. I do sometimes see referral bonuses given in that arena. And for clients, you can give a discount to your clients for making referrals. Aaron Markham is fond of saying that he had one client who gave him, I can't remember, $500,000 in business, I think, because he actually had a formalized referral program, and that worked for him very well. Marissa, are you and Amy looking at these questions too? Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Not to that particular one.
So anyway, in private duty, you just don't have the regulations that you have. You're going to have your state licensure regulations, but I am unaware, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I am not aware of any state licensure regulations that deal with any type of referrals in private duty. That may be coming, but I have not seen that. Okay. My agency does not split sales and marketing. As a sales rep, I'm responsible for both. The philosophy is the more touches, the better, over every kind of referral source over large territories. How can I strategize? Well, first, thank you for this question, but I think at the core of this is understanding the difference between sales and marketing. I think to have good marketing, you're going to have more resources than you're going to have as a salesperson. So marketing goes far deeper than just touches. Marketing is, what is your strategy going to be? Who are you going to market to? And how you strategize is, I would first take a look at where you've had your successes and where you're getting your most referrals, and I would segment that into different sections, and I would then target all of those people that you are getting the most referrals from as primary targets to be visited more often, and then I would ask them each for someone like them that might be interested in your services, and spread out by looking for more people just like the ones you've had success with. So and then measure, try that for a while and measure, because you should have your A visits, your B visits, and your C visits, and those should be in a very organized list, so you are only visiting those people where you think you can get the best results and then measuring for those results.
Right, and I would just like to comment on the more touches, the better. I think that's a quality over quantity issue. I think you do need to be touching people on a regular basis, but again, it needs to be a quality touch. So the information that you're speaking with them about or that you're bringing and sharing with them needs to have some depth, some quality, and contain the information that helps them do their job better if they're a referral source, or educates them if they're a consumer.
This next question, what's the first step with building a relationship with trust and estate attorneys? And I'm going to go back to Marissa's analogy about blind dates. What is your first step in building a relationship with anyone? First you have to identify them, and then you have to find something in common with them, and then you have to continue meeting with them to build that relationship, listening to what their needs are and meeting those needs. So the first step, it isn't something that happens quickly. It might take you a year to 2 years to build relationships with trust and estate attorneys, but it does. There's a whole process along relationship building, and you just have to start, and you have to have a strategy that is specifically targeted to trust and estate attorneys, and you have to listen to them to make certain that you are actually meeting their needs. I think this is our last question. With the home care market being so saturated, is there a process for finding a new niche market for our organization instead of everyone marketing to the same people? I'm trying to think probably on the referral sources webinar that we do in March, we will talk about specific referral sources. But actually for private duty, anyone who knows anyone with a care need is a target. So depending on what your strategy is, if you want to look for more long-term clients, for instance, you might have a strategy that would look for referral sources that have not been touched. For instance, funeral home directors. You don't get as many, obviously, referrals from a funeral home director, but you do. Massage and beauty salons that have an established reputation with older clientele, that's another place. There are different the school system counselors who are employment counselors who are working with large organizations that have employees who may have elder care issues. If you really start looking at all of the different ways that you might find people who have care needs, it really becomes a pretty open-ended quest for people you can market to. The financial advisors. We have a list of 30, 40, and it keeps growing.
And as far as the market being saturated, yes, there are a ton of home care agencies out there, but there's also a ton of home care agencies out there who are very poor at marketing or have very poor design. And you can start to differentiate yourself just by having quality marketing.
Yes, that is a very big differentiator. Well, we're at the end of our hour. I want to thank you so very much for your time today. We do have 2 more webcasts in this series. If you've enjoyed this one today, please join us on February the 11th or March the 4th. And if you have any need to contact us, which we of course would love for you to do, we have lots of ways you can contact us. We're very active on social media. We have a telephone that we answer. We respond to emails. We have contact forms on all of our websites. So we certainly do appreciate your attendance today, and we hope to hear from you again in the future. And Marissa and Amy, thank you so much. This has been a good webinar session, I think. And let's
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Have a happy new year. Thank you so much.